3 bone-chilling true horror stories to haunt your summer nights forever. The summer sun dipped below the horizon, shrouding the town in an eerie twilight that whispered secrets from the shadows. Warnings echoed through the streets, but the children laughed, unaware of the dark legends that lingered just beyond their play. They were about to become part of a chilling tale that would haunt them for years, if they lived to tell it. 3 true horror stories held the power to turn their laughter into shivers, their smiles into screams. The first tale began with a haunting figure that had woven itself into the fabric of the town's dark history. A ghostly woman in white, her face perpetually serene yet twisted with sorrow, roamed the streets near the old cemetery. Residents spoke of restless nights, when her wails drifted through their windows like a cold wind, freezing the blood in their veins. Some claimed to have seen her lingering outside their homes, her long fingers clawing at the air as if pleading for someone to understand her pain. When the clock struck midnight, a sorrowful song had the power to stop the hearts of the bravest among them. Then there was the tale of the twisted tree on the edge of town, a gnarled giant with branches that looked like skeletal hands reaching for the sky. Many swore it marked the spot of an ancient ritual gone wrong, where loved ones were betrayed, and an innocent blood was spilled. The air around that tree felt thicker, almost suffocating, as if the spirits of the wronged hung in the branches, waiting for the chance to right the wrongs. Those who dared to touch its bark felt an icy grip, their dreams tainted by images of shadowy figures and a sense of impending doom. No one returned the same after visiting, if they returned at all. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And then, the final chilling story weaves a narrative of the old mill by the river, where the sound of grinding stone had long silenced, but locals still heard whispers flickering in the wind. It was said that those who ventured too close could hear the echoes of anguished cries, voices trapped in a realm far too dark to escape. Rumors had circulated about a dark figure seen standing by the mill's broken window, beckoning the curious to join its ghostly parade. They said once you were drawn in, you'd lose track of time and find yourself swept away by the current, becoming another ghost in the river's relentless flow. In the stillness of the night, with hearts racing and breaths held tight, would the children dare to uncover the truth behind these spine-chilling mysteries? Or would they become part of the legends themselves, forever shrouded in darkness? What lay beyond the whispers, just out of reach? The shadows deepened as the children, emboldened by fanciful tales and wild imaginations, gathered at the edge of the cemetery. They had heard every whispered warning but chose to embrace the thrill. What lay before them was more than a graveyard, it was a tapestry of untold stories woven by the whispers of the lost, echoes caught in the chilling breeze. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light casting an otherworldly glow on the crooked tombstones. As they stepped through the wrought iron gate, a collective shiver ran through them, like fingers of ice brushing their skin. Sarah, the bravest of the group, took the lead, her heart hammering against her ribcage. I dare you all to touch that stone over there. She pointed to a crumbling grave that seemed to flicker in the moonlight, drawing their eyes like a moth to a flame. They hesitated. There was something unsettling about the grave, its inscription faded, the name barely legible. Jamie, her best friend, grabbed her arm, fear flashing across her face. What if the stories are true? She whispered, her voice trembling. But before anyone could respond, Sarah forged ahead, reaching out to stroke the stone's weathered surface. At that moment, a cold gust of wind howled, stirring leaves into a frenzied dance around them. The air thickened, and an oppressive weight settled on their chests. For a fleeting second, the temperature dropped, and they could almost hear the faintest echo of a sorrowful song drifting through the cemetery. Did you hear that? Tyler gasped, his wide eyes darting nervously from one tombstone to another, but Sarah, emboldened by the eerie atmosphere, pressed her palm against the stone. An electric jolt surged through her, sharp and paralyzing. Her breath caught in her throat as a shadow burst forth from the darkness, taking the form of the woman in white, the ghostly figure they had all heard about in hushed tones. Her mournful eyes bore into Sarah's, and in that moment, time froze. "This isn't a game," the apparition whispered, her voice like the rustling of leaves, echoing with sorrow and longing. "You trespass and pay the price." A blood-curdling scream shattered the night's fragile silence. Emma had stumbled back, tripping over a gnarled root as her eyes fell upon the figure. Panic erupted amongst the group, their laughter transforming into chaos. "Run!" Tyler shouted, and they all bolted toward the gate, the oppressive force of the cemetery urging them to flee, but Sarah lingered, unable to tear her gaze from the ghostly woman. "Wait! What do you want?" she yelled, her voice cracking with dread. The figure pointed toward the twisted tree outside the cemetery, its gnarled branches clawing at the night sky. "Unravel the truth before it consumes you all." With that last, haunting command, the woman faded into the shadows, leaving behind a chilling silence thick with the weight of unanswered questions. Heart racing, Sarah finally turned to follow her friends, who were trembling and wide-eyed at the gate. What was she trying to tell them? What dark truth lay entwined in the roots of their town's history? They couldn't just forget about it now. Sarah felt a pull, like an invisible string tugging her heart. As they fled, the whispers from the trees grew louder, intertwining with the gurgling river that ran nearby. A chill ran down her spine and the sensation of being watched crept in, igniting her curiosity. They had unearthed something sinister, yet tantalizing, something that begged to be explored. What awaited them on the path to the tree? Could they discover the intertwined fates that had led to the woman's tragedy? Or would the truths they sought only bury them deeper in the shadows? With the echoes of despair still fresh in their minds, the children sensed the night was far from over. They burst through the cemetery gate, hearts racing and breaths coming in ragged gasps. The cool night air slapped their faces, but it was nothing compared to the terror that frozen moment had stirred within them. Adrenaline and confusion clouded their thoughts, but Sarah felt a burning curiosity rising in her chest, the ghost's words echoing like a chant in her mind. "Unravel the truth before it consumes you all." What was that? Jamie gasped, her eyes darting around as they stumbled away from the cemetery, the twisted trees casting frightening shadows that felt alive. "Did you see her?" I don't know," Tyler stammered, his face pale, "but she was real." "What do we do now?" "What she said," Sarah interrupted, her voice stronger than she felt. "We have to figure it out. Whatever that truth is, it can't just end like this. We can't let her down." Emma, still trembling, looked at Sarah with wide eyes. "Are you serious? We just saw a ghost. Maybe we should just leave it alone." "No." Sarah snapped, the force of her conviction surprising even herself. "If we don't dig deeper, what if we're pulled back there one day? What if she finds us again?" The group fell into an uneasy silence. They were drawn together by fear but splintered by discord. Each child wrestled with their own sense of daring and dread. It was a game gone dangerously real, with stakes they could barely understand. Dark thoughts flickered through Sarah's mind. Did they even dare to go back? Could they withstand whatever darkness awaited? "Let us at least go to the tree she pointed to," Sarah suggested finally, her heart thumping as curiosity urged her forward. Maybe it holds answers." With reluctant nods, they made their way towards the crooked tree that seemed to reach out with skeletal branches. The journey felt endless, shadows dancing around them as the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of urgency winding around each other like the roots hidden beneath the surface. As they neared the looming tree, the peculiar shapes of the graveyard melted into the backdrop, giving way to something more haunting. The air hung thick with unexplainable energy, trembling beneath the weight of their impending confrontation. "Oh no," Jamie murmured suddenly, her voice small. "What if it's watching us?" "Who?" Tyler asked, glancing around nervously. "The woman." Jamie cried. Enough. Sarah snapped, turning to steel her resolve. We've already seen her. We can handle this. They reached the base of the gnarled tree, its bark twisted and rough, resembling a face frozen in pain. At its roots, a small, rusted box lay half buried in the soil, almost hidden. The soil had been disturbed, someone or something had recently uncovered it, and now it was beckoning them closer. Should we open it? Emma's voice trembled with uncertainty. Of course, we should. Sarah insisted, her pulse racing not with fear, but with thrilling anticipation. She knelt beside the box, brushing off the dirt. Her hands shook as she struggled to unlatch it. What if it's cursed? Jamie whispered, glancing around as if imaginary eyes bore down on them. It's too late for that now, Sarah shot back, the latch finally giving way with a loud creak that sliced through the night like a knife. As she lifted the lid, the night fell eerily silent. The group leaned closer, their breath held, awaiting whatever secrets the box might reveal. Inside lay a collection of faded papers, brittle and yellowed with age, and an ornate locket that shimmered in the moonlight. What is this? Tyler asked, almost breathless. Without hesitation, Sarah reached for the locket and opened it, revealing a portrait of a woman whose features almost mirrored that of the ghost. Recognition struck, a familiar dread curling within her. In that moment, the shadows around them shifted, as if stirred by some unseen force. A chilling wind swept through the grove, rustling the leaves and sending shivers down their spines. As the ghostly whispers rose in a cacophony, they realized they were not alone. What have we done? Jamie squeaked, backing away, but it was too late. A dark presence enveloped them, the night swallowing their voices. The truth was about to unravel, but at what cost? The darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating, as the weight of the moment gripped the group. Sarah's heart raced not just with fear, but a peculiar thrill that coursed through her veins. What she had found was more than just a locket, it was a key to something far beyond their understanding. Who are you? A voice whispered through the night, sending a jolt of terror coursing through Jamie. It sounded like the ghost, yet wrapped in a new, deeper echo that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. Stay close. Sarah commanded, her voice trembling but resolute. She clutched the locket tightly, a beacon flashing in the ocean of darkness enveloping them. We need to know. What are you trying to tell us? The air shifted, charged with unspoken words, as the wind howled through the branches like a mournful song. Shadows danced menacingly, rippling against the tombstones that leaned like weary giants. The papers in the box fluttered as if alive, pulling their gaze to the fragile edges that curled with age. Maybe it's a message? Tyler said, eyeing the box with a mix of fear and eagerness. Or a warning, Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the mounting tension. She stepped slightly back, her eyes darting around as if trying to catch sight of their elusive pursuer. Just read it, Sarah, Jamie urged, the quiver in her voice betraying her terror. Please. With a deep breath, Sarah reached for the papers. As she unfolded the first one, she felt a cold chill envelop her, as if hands from beyond were gripping her shoulders, keeping her anchored in place. The words blurred for a moment, then sharpened. It has been buried for years, the truth cannot hide forever. Those who seek it must beware, for it is a curse that cannot be broken. What does that even mean? Tyler muttered, stepping closer, wanting to share in the discovery but fighting his own instincts to flee. Wait, there's more. Sarah pressed on, her eyes scanning the frantic script. There are names here. The breath caught in her throat as she read aloud the name that echoed through her mind like a death knell. Margaret Hawthorne. She was the ghost. At the sound of the name, the air crackled. The whispers intensified, swirling around them like a tempest filled with anguish. Does she want something from us? Emma asked, panic rising in her tone. We have to find out what. Sarah replied fiercely. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the remaining papers. Each passing moment felt endless. Time distorted the whispers, a cacophony that tugged at her very soul. Suddenly, a gust of wind erupted, scattering the papers like autumn leaves. Jamie shrieked as the icy breath wrapped around them, striking cold at their backs, urging them not to remain. Sarah's grip on the locket tightened as she felt a pulse, almost as if it were alive, thrumming in harmony with the commotion around them. "Look!" Tyler shouted, pointing towards the shadows that danced erratically among the gravestones. Within the murky gloom, a figure emerged. Only this time, it was no longer just a wisp of fog. The ghost of Margaret Hawthorne stood before them, her sorrowful eyes shimmering with a depth of understanding. "I am bound," the ghost murmured, her voice an echo that lingered in the air. "Until the truth is revealed, I cannot rest." "What truth?" Sarah asked, her voice shaky yet adamant. "What do you want from us?" But before the ghost could answer, the wind howled louder, drowning out her words. The shadows twisted around them, coiling tighter and tighter, as if the earth itself sought to swallow them whole. In that instant, Sarah understood the truth wasn't just a fragment of history, it was something darker, something they were entwined with. The locket pulsed again, demanding her attention, its message hidden within. "Faster, Sarah!" Tyler urged, his eyes wide with panic as the ghostly presence began to fade, the shadows becoming frantic. "Before it's too late." With a spurt of determination, Sarah grasped the locket and the frayed papers, heart pounding in her chest. Her eyes met each of her friends, filled with a mix of fear and resolution. The revelation lay within their reach, but revelation comes at a price. What were they willing to sacrifice to discover the truth? The moment teetered on the edge of decision as the shadows closed in, hungry for answers they weren't yet ready to confront. "What if," Jamie stammered, backing away, "what if it's too much for us?" The darkness seemed to respond, thrumming with power, as Sarah felt a rush of unease. "Are we ready?" she whispered, realizing they were standing on the precipice of something far beyond their wildest nightmares. And then came the question that hung heavy in the air, echoing through the unease around them: what if the truth they sought was more frightening than the ghost? The shadows pressed harder, vibrating with an energy that felt alive. The air thickened, charged with fear and desperation. Sarah's fingers instinctively tightened around the locket as trepidation coursed through her veins. What was Margaret Hawthorne trying to tell them? "Think, guys. We need to figure this out," Sarah said, the urgency in her voice cutting through the chaos. But every beat of her heart felt like a drum warning her to run, to escape the weight of the secrets lingering in the air. She fought against the rising tide of fear, staring at the ghostly figure shimmering before them. Margaret's spectral face was twisted with a sorrow that cut deep. It was a reminder of a lifelong past, a truth buried beneath layers of horror and regret. The shadows twisted again, pulling the corners of her mind. "Give me the papers, Sarah," Emma said, her voice shaking. "Maybe we can find something there." "Are you nuts?" Jamie replied, glancing around. "What if it's a trap? What if that's the point?" Sarah snapped, rising anger overriding her fear. "We can't back down now. We have to understand." Margaret's eyes glimmered, a flicker of hope or maybe pity. "You must learn, what you seek is not just mine to share. You hold the key, but you are not prepared for what it unlocks." Before anyone could respond, the sound of a low growl slithered through the crowd of gravestones. A chilling dread washed over them. Jamie turned pale. "What was that?" "Run!" Tyler shouted, his instincts taking over. But Sarah shook her head. "Not until we know the truth." At that moment, a flicker of light flashed from the locket, illuminating the area with an ethereal glow. It pulsed again, as if resonating with the whispers around them, beckoning them closer to the realization of their fate. "What are you waiting for? Read more," Emma urged, her eyes wide with desperation. With trembling hands, Sarah unfolded another parchment. The letters wove a tale of heartache and betrayal, detailing Margaret's wrongful accusation, a crime she never committed. As the words unfolded, the tension grew thicker, wrapping around them tighter than the noxious fog. They buried her truth with dirt and lies. Sarah read, her voice cracking. Margaret was accused of witchcraft. She died innocent. The locket, it belongs to the one who condemned her. The wind howled louder, echoing with a sudden fury that sent shivers down their spines. It whipped against them, and the shadows gathered, forming a wall of darkness that surged forward, eager to pounce. When the truth is revealed, justice will come. Margaret's voice echoed, fuller now, but the words were nearly lost in the chaos. Sarah, we might not have time. Tyler shouted. The pale light from the locket flickered perilously, casting haunting shadows on their terrified faces. Remember what the note said. We have to choose wisely. Emma yelled over the rising wind. With their hearts racing, they faced each other, panic etched in every expression. So what do we do? Do we confront the one who harmed her? Or do we find a way to expose the truth? With the shadows closing in, the swirling whispers molded together into a cry that felt agonized and insistent. I feel it. Sarah's voice trembled as she clutched the locket to her chest. It's telling me to confront it. To fight. Confront what? Jamie's voice cracked, threading fear with doubt. What if we're not strong enough? Just as that doubt hung heavy in the air, a violent gust pulled at them, sending their thoughts spiraling. Suddenly, Margaret's presence grew stronger, flickering like candlelight against the darkness. If you wish to save me or free yourselves, you must face the darkness together. She took a step back, and the shadows writhed in protest, momentarily releasing their grip on reality. Together, Sarah breathed, her eyes gleaming with determination. But beneath that determination, another thought stalked her. What if the truth was a weapon that would cut deeper than any ghostly curse? As the shadows lunged forward, Sarah stepped into the darkness with her friends, knowing they had no choice but to move deeper into the secrets that lay hidden, knowing that only then could they grasp the answers, spinning into the unknown, what awaited them in the depths of the shadows. And would that knowledge grant Margaret peace or lead them to their own damnation? The darkness closed in around them like a living entity, pulsating with a hunger that made the air shimmer. Each step felt heavier, the shadows whispering secrets that scraped against their minds. They pressed on, the locket's glow casting an eerie light on their path, carving a fragile trail through the gloom. Do you feel that? Emma whispered, her eyes darting nervously. The others nodded, sweat beading on their brows. A sense of dread wrapped around them, deeper than before, a poisonous fog seeping into their bones. Sarah slowed, her heart hammering against her ribcage. We're getting closer. I can sense it. The words left her lips before she could fully digest them. It was a lie, perhaps one designed to bolster their wavering courage. But she clung to it as tightly as she held the locket. Closer to what? Tyler interjected, teeth grinding in agitation. This could be the end for us, you know. Maybe it's the beginning, Sarah countered, trying to shake the darkness clutching at her thoughts. A sudden gust roared around them, lifting the hem of their clothes, circling like a storm. Out of the shadows, a figure materialized, a grotesque silhouette, contorted and twisted. It bore no face, but its presence felt like 1,000 piercing eyes evaluating their every flaw. Sarah took a step back, her breath hitching. Who are you? She managed to croak. Wretched souls, it rasped, voice dripping like venom. You dare to tread where secrets rot? With a surge of defiance, Sarah clenched the locket. We're here for the truth. We'll unearth it. The figure swayed, laughter echoing ominously through the ruins of gravestones. Truth? Are you prepared for it? When the veil lifts, will you stand in its radiance or cower in its shadow? Choose wisely. Shut up. Jamie shouted, but his voice wobbled, fear lacing his tone. We know what we have to do. Do we? Emma interjected, unease spilling from her. What if it's worse than we believe? What if exposing the past destroys us? As if summoned by their doubts, the shadows thickened further, swirling with malevolence. Vague figures flitted through the dark, entreating whispers clawing at their sanity. The tormented cries seemed to echo Margaret's sorrow, a wild, tempestuous battle between hope and despair. "Look at me," Margaret's voice rose through the clamor, steady yet laden with despair. "You must confront your fears, only then can my truth be freed." The spectral glow intensified, illuminating the hidden faces, their hollow eyes filled with untold agony, frozen in an eternal night. "We need to keep moving," Sarah urged, shaking the feeling of helplessness. "We have to find her. We must confront the one who condemned her." "Why? So we can end up like her?" Jamie challenged, his voice rising in panic. "What if it's a trap? A way to drag us down into the darkness? Better to risk falling than to deny the truth." Sarah shot back, feeling the weight of her own courage. She looked to the whispers echoing beside them, searching for resolve. She had seen how their words had forged a connection. The locket was more than a key, it was a link to those who had suffered. Tyler's eyes took in the shadows, wild and chaotic. "What if the truth is something we can't handle?" As if in answer, the ground trembled, as if the earth itself breathed with anticipation. The wails of spirits crescendoed, overpowering their doubts. "Awaken what you fear." They shrieked in unison, the air crackled, heavy with tension. "It's now or never," Sarah breathed, reaching out toward the blur of movement ahead, the tangled memories beckoning her. She felt Jamie shudder behind her, but she pressed on, enveloped by a mix of trepidation and hope. "Let us find her," she murmured, as they plunged into the unknown, shadows threatening to engulf them. In the depths of the darkness, would they unveil the truth and discover the hidden horrors that awaited them within? Or would the shadows consume them, leaving their own legacies of fear behind? The shadows stretched menacingly, curling around their heels as they ventured deeper. Each breath felt like stepping into a trap, thick and suffocating. The glow of the locket pulsed in rhythm with Sarah's ragged heartbeat, flickering against the oppressive dark that seemed alive, hungry for fear. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, her voice steadier than she felt. Behind her, the unsettling whispers roiled around them, an orchestra of ghosts played upon the strings of their nerves. They rocketed down the dim corridor of the unknown, where walls pressed close, like prison bars. The laughter of the faceless figure echoed from the fringes, mocking, chilling. "Are you ready to confront your demons?" it taunted, sending shudders racing down their spines. They gritted their teeth, but inside, uncertainty reigned. A sudden flash gripped their attention, a flicker of light, a glimmer in the inky void. "What was that?" Emma gasped, pointing. The glow was brighter, cutting through the dark like a beacon. It bounced off twisted branches, illuminating something undeniably grotesque. A mirror hung precariously from the trees, edged in charred wood. "Step closer," the figure beckoned, and its voice licked at their skin like fire. "Look into the mirror. Face what you've buried." Fear knotted Sarah's stomach. This was it, she could feel it. An icy grip tightened around her throat. "We can't," she whispered, but her eyes betrayed her, drawn to the unnatural light. What lay behind that glass may be her salvation or her damnation. Tyler hesitated, swallowed hard. "Let us just keep going. This isn't right." But his conviction wobbled, eyes darting to the mirror, then to Sarah. "Don't you want to see the truth?" The figure hissed, malicious glee saturating its voice. "The reflections of your souls await. You can't hide from what you are." Not anymore. Each pulse of the locket sent more powerful shocks of energy through Sarah. The walls seemed to pulse with anticipation, breathing against her ears. Perhaps the mirror held the answers, the key to understanding Margaret's fate, but at what price? "I want to look." Jamie spat. "I refuse to feed this nightmare." But Sarah began, her voice trembling, and a flicker of hope broke through. "What if we can help her? What if it reveals where we go next, how we can save her?" Or it might trap us here forever. Tyler countered. Maybe it's worse than we think, Emma said, a tremor betraying her confidence. This isn't some fairy tale, this could be a trick. Just as doubt threatened to pull them back into the vortex of despair, a wail erupted from the mirror, a mournful cry that cut through the darkness and struck their hearts like an ice pick. It felt personal, like the echoes of their pasts clawing to the surface. "Help me!" the voice cried, and they stepped back, eyes wide. "Listen, before it's too late." The air crackled, suffused with a bitter chill. Margaret's essence poured through the glass, a fluid shadow battling against the confines. "It's the reflection of your own despair, it holds the key, you must look." Sarah stumbled forward, reaching for the mirror, drawn to the woman inside. There was something powerful in that wailing and understanding that cut to her core. But something stirred in the depths of the glimmering surface, shadows writhing like hungry serpents, preparing to strike. They hesitated, the figure in the shadows grinning wider. "Will you embrace what you fear, or will you allow it to consume you, to drown in darkness?" Suddenly, the earth jolted, a violent rumble like a rising storm. The mirror cracked, light splintering through the fractures like jagged talons reaching for them. "What do we do?" Jamie shouted over the rising cacophony. "Sarah, you have to decide." The weight of their fates rested upon her shoulders. Would she look into the depths and unlock what had been lost, or flee into the encompassing darkness? The tension snapped as they held their breaths, hearts pounding, frozen between choices. Whatever truth awaited in that mirror, one thing was certain: they had to face it, but at what cost? As the mirror shattered, the darkness surged forward, engulfing them in a whirlwind of doubt and revelation. Would they find hope in the shards? Or would the horrors that lay within drag them into oblivion? The darkness swallowed them whole. Shards of the mirror flew through the air like daggers, slicing the eerie silence into fragments of chaos. Sarah screamed, but the sound vanished into the consuming void. Her heart raced, a primal need to survive clawed at her insides. Suddenly, the world tilted. A force pulled at them, like gravity had flipped, plunging them into an endless fall. They grasped each other's hands, fingers tangling tightly, desperate to anchor one another amidst the disorientation. "Sarah." Tyler's voice was thin, stretched across the abyss. "What did you do?" "I didn't mean to." She gasped. "I just wanted to." Without warning, the shadows warped. They liquefied around them, flowing like ink in water. The laughter of the taunting figure echoed again, louder now, as if mocking their pitiful struggle. "You wished to see. Now you'll witness the truth of the abyss." The dark swirled like a storm, coiling and undulating. Emma's eyes widened, terror flooding her face. "What's happening? Are we what's going to happen to us?" The frantic words flew out of her mouth, each syllable heavy with dread. A dim flicker pierced the shadows like a lightning bolt. It grew, illuminating grotesque forms swirling in the haze. Faces. Distorted, anguished, eyes wide with despair. Specters of their pasts pulled at them, reaching for release, twisted in pain and regret. "Don't look. Don't let them in." Jamie shrieked, cringing, but it was too late. The specters tightened their grip, whispering secrets of guilt and unresolved pain. Memories buried deep were clawing their way back to the surface, a torrent of humiliation and betrayal. Sarah felt a chill pinching at her heart. She saw her younger self, standing in the midst of a broken family, tears streaking her cheeks, a snapshot of despair she'd buried long ago. The image gripped her so fiercely it was suffocating. As she stared, her own reflection clawed its way to the forefront, urging her to embrace the grief she had buried. "Look away," Tyler pleaded, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. "We can fight this." But Sarah felt rooted, entranced by the chaos swirling around them. "This is our truth. We can't run from it," she murmured, half to herself. The memories had power, the specters were fragments of what had once felt insurmountable, now pleading for understanding. "Face it together." She called out, her voice gaining strength. We can't let it control us. But a thunderous roar erupted from the darkness, drowning out her words. The shadows responded, enraged. You dare challenge your own reflections? The voice boomed, echoing ominously. Suddenly, an unseen force came crashing into the group, flinging them apart. Jamie's screams wrapped around Sarah like barbed wire. Tyler's hand slipped from hers, and the next thing she knew, he was engulfed by the darkness, his cries swallowed whole. No! She screamed, lunging into the void, but it was too late. Tears blurred her vision. Panic rose like bile in her throat. Tyler! Help us! Emma's voice broke through the chaos, but it was drowned out by the shadows smirking around them, the intent clear. They wanted to consume them all. The light flickered, revealing the outline of the mirror once more, shattered shards still dangling in the air. The moment stretched into eternity. Sarah gathered every ounce of courage and focused on the mirror. We have to face them, she shouted, raising her voice to pierce the shadows, not just for us, but for Taylor. But as the mirage of the figure slithered back into view, grinning wider, its voice oozed malice. Will you sacrifice your freedom for your friend? Step into the mirror, and choose. What are you willing to lose? The walls around them groaned, twisting realities and blending fears. All stood perilously as Sarah's heart hammered furiously. The shadows broke, and in their place emerged the agonizing decision they had to make. Was the hope of saving one worth the loss of all? As the shadows rushed in, something formidable loomed in the depths, ready to claim its next victim. Sarah steeled herself, knowing that whatever lay ahead, they had to confront it or let it consume them forever. Would they unite against darkness, or would fear throw them into separate, unending nightmares? The darkness pressed in against them like a suffocating blanket. Sarah's heart thudded painfully against her ribs as the shadowy figure loomed closer, its mocking laughter resonating through the void. The choice hung heavy in the air, like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. Step into the mirror, choose. The voice echoed, twisting into sinister shrieks that carried a weight of despair. Deep within Sarah's gut, a flicker of dread ignited. What if stepping into the mirror meant losing everything? Sarah! Emma's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. We need to make a decision. We can't. Before she could finish, a wave of darkness crashed over them, separating Jamie and Emma. The two were pulled away from Sarah, their terrified faces vanishing into the inky blackness. Jamie reached out, but only empty space remained where she had been. Emily! Emma! Sarah screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. Her chest felt tight, panic threatening to consume her. I can't, Sarah, focus. Tyler's voice, strained but steady, cut through the chaos. He was still with her, and she clung to that, grounding herself against the swirling tide. But the shadows writhed, eager to envelop them both like a snake suffocating its prey. What do we do? She cried, turning toward him, her eyes wide with fear. Remember what they're made of, Tyler said urgently. They're just shadows. They feed on our fear and regrets. We can't let them control us. Sarah blanched. Easier said than done. The darkness coiled around her, whispers filling her ears with haunting echoes of failed dreams and lost friends. Fight it. He grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her slightly. Remember who you are. What we've been through together. We can't let this destroy us. She nodded, more out of desperation than conviction. Just as she looked again at the mirror still suspended in the air, reflecting only darkness, she felt a surge of resistance. We have to confront our truths first. The shadows writhed in annoyance, and their laughter turned hostile. Truth? You think you can face the truth? Look where it brought you. Shut up. Tyler shouted. We're not here to listen to you. He stepped forward, dragging Sarah with him. They moved toward the shards, the reflections of their lives glittering like jagged stars. Each shard a different moment, a burst of pain, joy, and regret. I choose to face this. Sarah yelled defiantly, her voice resonating against the walls of darkness. And I do it for Tyler, Emma, and Jamie. But just as the shadows recoiled, shifting in fear, a bone-chilling chill swept through the space. Another figure emerged from the swirling shadows, a figure that made Sarah's heart drop. It was a twisted version of herself, a dark reflection with hollow eyes filled with malevolence. You think you can change what has been done? The shadow of her past intoned, voice dripping with venom. You'll never escape me. Fear wrapped around Sarah like a vice. You're not me. She cried, trembling. You're my pain, and I will not let you control me. The confrontation was escalating, the shadows thrummed with an unsettling energy like they were preparing for the ultimate clash. Tyler squeezed Sarah's hand, his determination mingling with her fear. Stick together, he urged, glancing around, his eyes fierce against the encroaching darkness. As they moved closer together, the air thickened with tension. A deafening roar resounded through the shadows, shaking the ground beneath them. Deep beneath all the swirling chaos, something formidable stirred, hungry. The ground shifted, and before they knew it, the portal to the abyss flared, threatening to pull them in. Hold on! Tyler yelled, but even as he spoke, the darkness lashed out, ready to claim them. In the chaos, they needed unity more than ever. The essence of their past was ripping them apart, and the question still lingered: were they strong enough to face it, or would fear shred their bonds, leaving only shadows behind? Out of nowhere, light pierced through the shadows. Was it hope, salvation, or merely another trick of the darkness? As the light grew brighter, it illuminated the fractured mirror, the reflections shifting in ways they had never imagined. Time was running out. The chaos surrounded them, the darkness swirling like a tempest, but in the eye of the storm, Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting. She took a deep breath and turned to Tyler. We have to believe. Together. We can break this. Tyler nodded fiercely, his hands gripping hers tightly. Together, they faced the ominous shadows, understanding that they held the key to unraveling the encroaching darkness. Margaret is here, Sarah whispered, her heart pounding. Her truth is within us all. As if on cue, the shadows writhed and recoiled. The twisted reflection of Sarah lunged forward, its eyes burning with rage. You think you can change the past? You're weak. You'll never escape me. No. Sarah cried. I refuse to let you define me. I am stronger than my fears. With that declaration, light began to seep through the cracks in the mirror, mixing with the shadows, pushing them back. A powerful surge accompanied Sarah's assertion, coursing through her like electricity. The haunting cries of her fears began to dissolve, confronted by undeniable determination. Let us face this together. Tyler shouted, his voice ringing clear. We can't fear what made us. The light expanded, illuminating the space, revealing all the faces that lingered within the shadows, specters of their pasts. They were lost, crying out in anguish, but no longer threatening. Steps trembled forward, first from Sarah, then Tyler, and together they advanced toward the swirling mixture of light and shadow. Margaret, we want to help you, Sarah called out, her voice strong and unwavering. The ominous energy shifted, pulling them into a world at the precipice of despair and hope. The broken shards of the mirror floated closer, each resembling an emblem of what had been lost and what could be redeemed. The shadows writhed and exaggerated their forms, desperate to grab hold, but the warmth of their bravery began to push them back. Then, a faint shimmer emerged, Margaret's image, clear and full of sorrow but no longer tainted by fear. Do not abandon your truths, together, you will free us all, she implored, her voice echoing with a clarity that cleaved through the chaos. I will not. Sarah shouted. I will not let the shadows take our pasts, nor will they take our futures. In a spectacular burst, the energy transformed, cascading forth in waves of shimmering light. The shadows screamed, wild and desperate, as if feeling the grip of their power loosening. One by one, faces of sorrow faltered, looking into Sarah and Tyler's eyes, sensing compassion rather than condemnation. They saw themselves in those faces, echoes of pain intertwined with hope. "I forgive you," Sarah whispered, her breath catching as she gazed deeply into the writhing mass. "You're not our enemies. You're our truths." With that utterance, a wave of warmth expanded, washing over her and exploding into a kaleidoscope of light. The shadows shimmered and began to dissolve, retreating with anguished wails as the powerful bond of their shared courage became a beacon, illuminating the darkness like a sunrise after a long night. Suddenly, as the last traces of shadow fell away, the darkness dissolved entirely. The air became still, and the way before them opened up, like a door creaking open to reveal a world bathed in light. The silhouettes of the lost whispered their gratitude as they merged, no longer trapped, echoing thank you amidst the sanctuary of honesty. Even amidst relief, Sarah's heart ached for what had been lost. "We need to keep this truth, to remember," she murmured. "I will," Tyler agreed, holding her firmly. "We'll carry it together, like a legacy." As new warmth washed over them, the world did not feel entirely restored, but filled with promise. They turned to leave, glancing back to the remnants of shadows fading in the distance like the last remnants of a storm. Later, they emerged back into the cool night air, the gnarled tree standing resolutely before them, its branches no longer reaching for darkness. Their friends Emma and Jamie returned too, faces bright with relief and understanding. No one spoke for a moment, simply absorbing the gravity of what they had faced and triumphed over together. "We did it," Emma exclaimed softly, and the others nodded, feeling the gravity settle over them like a comforting blanket. "Yes, we did," Sarah echoed, her spirit lighter, yet her heart heavier with knowledge. "It'll haunt us, but in a good way." As the cold night faded into dawn, they began to walk away, determined to hold the truth close. The gloom of the past would not consume them. Instead, it would empower them, shaping their futures and binding them into a steadfast alliance. And so, as the sun rose, breaking through the veil of darkness once and for all, they left the cemetery behind, ghosts of the past resolved and replaced by the promises of a brighter tomorrow. But as they walked, a voice drifted on the wind, whispering tales of old, the remnants of the unforgotten, echoing like a solemn reminder that some truths, no matter how resolved, would ever linger in the southeastern corner of their hearts. Now, listen up. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It really helps out, and flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories. I'm dying to know how you felt about the ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know how vital these actions are to keep the channel thriving. So what are you waiting for? Let's build this community together.